having a healthy, strong marriage is about showing up for each other. How do you think you are being as a spouse? How would you grade yourself? If you're truly honest with yourself during moments of conflict or stress, are you proud of the type of partner you're being? Or would you want to grow in some areas? It's really easy to just point the finger and say it's their fault. Growth is required for the longevity and success of your marriage, which looks like taking responsibility. None of us are perfect. There is always something to work on. And so long as the two of you are committed to doing the work, to being the best you can be, that's what this is about.
Welcome to the Marriage and Motherhood Podcast. I'm your host, Michelle Perda. As a marriage coach who's married with 3 kids, I know how much parenthood could change a marriage. If flirting, laughing, and having fun together feels like a thing of the past, then I'm here to teach you that marriage doesn't have to feel so hard with your parents, and your marriage can thrive even when you're in the season of raising kids. Whether you're in a good place in your marriage and you just want to continue growing together, or you're wondering if you even like your spouse anymore, this podcast has something for you. Join me here each week as we dive into what it takes to help your marriage grow, and maybe even do a 180. You'll learn ways to handle conflict better, bring that spark back into your relationship, as well as learn how to improve other areas of your life from my lovely guest experts. Are you ready for the next stage of your life and marriage? Let's dive in.
Hello. Welcome back to another episode of the Marriage and Motherhood Podcast. So as I was sitting here thinking about, okay, what do my people need to hear to take their marriage up to the next level, to see the changes that they're really wanting to see? And lo and behold, I was inspired by the coaching call I just hopped off of before eating lunch. I was meeting with a husband, and we were talking about this phenomenon that is honestly my favorite part of the coaching journey with my clients. And it really comes down to that one point where they have that aha moment where they're like, well, now that I notice my partner is, doing these things and they're really working on themselves, that I'm inspired to work on myself even more. And what they're not noticing is that it actually stems from the two of them working on themselves, coming together, noticing that there's a true commitment between the two of them that inspires each of them to keep going, right? So this episode is all about how changing the way you show up in your marriage absolutely creates this ripple effect that inspires your partner to continue to show up differently too. Now, with marriage, it's so common for us to have our frustrations and annoyances and experience resentment and feel like, gosh, if only my partner would start doing these things, or if only my partner would stop doing these things, then we'll be happy. And so with all the finger pointing and the blame, what's not happening is truly empowering yourself to create change in your marriage where you have the most impact. And that's with yourself. We only have the ability to control what we do and how we react, how we interact with our partner, how we approach them, what we share with them. That's where our lane is. And that's where, honestly, we need to stay. If we focus our energy on telling our partner what they need to do differently, that's like fighting an uphill battle, because that's only going to come off as criticism, which will then make them defensive and not be open to listening to what you're sharing. And the most impact that you can have on the relationship is truly just focusing on taking responsibility for how you are actively contributing to the dynamic that your marriage has come to at this point, and noticing where can you grow? What can you do differently to support the marriage and moving into a different direction? Okay. all that to say, if you're wanting your marriage to change and you want to feel connected again in the shortest amount of time possible, the fastest way to change your marriage is not by getting your partner to change. It's by changing how you show up and all the things that would support you to desire to do that. Okay? But of course, I know that sounds like it's a lot easier said than done. And there is absolutely nothing wrong with you if you're like, no, I still need them to change and that will fix things. And that makes sense, right? And here's where I want to help you see things from a different perspective. Most couples come to me feeling stuck in this kind of loop. They're having the same arguments over and over, feeling like they're not seeing any improvement, and they're thinking that things shouldn't be this hard in their marriage. If you got married, it's because you were happy together. You worked well together. You have similar goals for where you want to end up in life and similar values and all of that, right? And all of a sudden, come kids, it feels like marriage just feels a lot harder, right? It feels harder to be happy together. But what's underneath that is people are waiting for their partner to go first, to make the changes, to listen to the feedback, to know what they're needing, and just making those adjustments and believing that their partner is the reason why things feel so heavy. And so naturally with that logic, well, if you change, then I'll be happy. And I get that. And I have been there. Because when you're tired and you're exhausted, it does feel like if they would just fix this, everything would be better, right? It seems like an easy solution, but it feels like, how come they're not doing it? Why is it that I'm telling them exactly what I'm needing? I'm needing more support, or I'm needing more partnership, or we need to communicate better, and it just falls flat. And here's what's actually happening. Most couples don't get to this place where they're like, how did we get here? Why do things feel so hard? Because they're incompatible. They got here because either they're not aware of their own needs, they're not meeting their own needs, or they're not clearly communicating their needs. And when I say clearly communicating, there's a difference between feeling like you're clearly communicating and your partner understanding it as clear communication. We have to communicate in a way where they understand what we mean. And that doesn't necessarily always translate to how you think you're clearly communicating. So what happens? You start to show up as a version of yourself that is reactive instead of being present in the conversation and taking in what they're saying and responding with intentionality. You also show up resentful instead of open, and defensive instead of collaborative. And when both people are showing up like this, because we are often mirroring our partner, it's going to feel hard. It's going to feel heavy. And it's going to feel like the arguments are never going to end. They're just going to always be like this. This is now officially how you communicate, period. But I have good news. This version of you guys is not who you have to be. It's just how you've been showing up lately. So you're not necessarily bad communicators. You've just been operating without awareness, regulation, and intentionality. And the amazing thing is that this is all fixable. Okay. Here's what I see all the time with my clients. And again, this is my favorite part, where it's like the ripple effect of our own actions. When one person, and even better when it's both, but when one person starts to be really mindful and aware of what they need to feel well, right? I'm talking about your overall well-being, your mental, your physical, your emotional, your spiritual, in whatever aspects of you that you highly prize. When you start to take care of yourself, that makes a huge difference. When you regulate your emotions, that makes a huge difference. When you start to communicate more clearly and respectfully, that makes a big difference. When you ask for what you need, that makes a big difference. And when you show up as a partner that you feel proud of, that also makes a big difference. When you do all of these things, things change. Not because you forced your partner to change, you made threats, but because a dynamic changed. Who you are changed. And so naturally, the situation has changed. Your spouse is no longer interacting with this older version of you who was spiteful or quick to snap at things, irritable, super serious, and just getting upset all the time. But rather, they are now getting this other version of yourself where you understand the importance of taking care of yourself and showing up to the marriage more whole, right? You're able to regulate your emotions so you can carry out a hard conversation with your partner without spiraling out of control. You're also able to communicate in a way where you two can work together, right? You can collaborate. You can openly share how you're feeling, what you're wanting, and stay in conversation, even if it feels hard to hear the feedback that's being shared with you. You're also asking for what you need. You're aware of what you're needing to be your best self, and you're letting your partner know. And you're showing up as the kind of spouse that you would feel proud to model to your kids. The perfect marriage isn't about never ever having any trials to go through, right? There is literally no marriage that has no challenges that they navigate, right? Being parents alone, that is a big challenge that you're navigating together. And having a healthy, strong marriage is about how you're riding through those challenges together. Are you riding the waves together, or are you kind of just pushing each other down into the waves and essentially leaving both of you drowning? This is all about showing up for each other, growing for yourself and feeling good about how you're showing up, but also supporting your partner where they are needing support so they can be their best self. So it really is about helping each other be the best that they can be, but also helping yourself. When this all happens in tandem, of course the dynamic is going to change, right? If you're no longer snapping at them, they don't have that to react to. So instead, they're going to communicate with you differently. And what's great about this is that you guys can actually rub off on each other, right? When you do good, they're going to do good. When you start to navigate communication in a different, calmer, more productive way, they won't feel the need to be the type of person who needs to assert their belief, assert their disagreement with you, because they are getting openness from you. They are sensing that you're listening, that you actually care to understand their side instead of just push your side. And so this changes the whole energy of your relationship. This changes the tone of the conversations that you're having. This changes the level of emotional safety that exists in your relationship, which, by the way, creates deeper connection physically and emotionally. And that's how good begets more good. When someone treats us with respect and kindness and love and support, and we in turn want to give that back to them because we want to foster that relationship. So here is a tough moment of reflection for you. How do you think you are being as a spouse? How would you grade yourself if you're truly honest with yourself? Because I know some people are like, well, I'd be so lucky to be married to myself. These are all the things that I do. I want you to strip away your pride for this moment and look at those moments that you've had recently where it's been tough, right? During moments of conflict, during moments of disagreement or stress. Are you proud of the type of partner you're being, or would you want to grow in some areas? How would you grade yourself as a spouse? This is not a moment of judgment, by the way, right? This is just a moment of awakening. Because oftentimes when we're upset, it's really easy to just point the finger and say it's their fault. They made me do this. And growth is required for the longevity and success of your marriage, which looks like taking responsibility for any missteps and any areas that you can grow through as an individual, as a partner, as a parent. And we all have these, right? We're all a work in progress. None of us are perfect. There is always something to work on. And so long as the two of you are committed to doing the work, to being the best you can be, being the best friend you can be to each other, being the best partner you can be to each other, being the best co-parent you can be to each other, being the best romantic partner. That's what this is about, right? It's about calibrating and assessing from time to time and noticing, oh, where have I fallen short because of this busy season? Where can I step it up? What have I forgotten to keep doing? What are things I need to maintain? What are things I need to learn and improve, right? Just like you're doing with parenting, right? When something doesn't go easily with your kids, you're like, oh gosh, I shouldn't have yelled. I could have taken a deep breath prior to approaching my child and talking to them about something. Or, oh gosh, I totally did not give us enough time to get out the door, and that resulted in me getting upset with my child and rushing them. But that was actually my own poor planning, right? So there's always this moment of reflection that we do with parenting because we care so much about doing right by our kids, making sure that they're being raised in a loving home, in a supportive home, but also guiding them to not turn out to be little assholes, right? Like we want them to be respectful. We want them to be awesome people that really contribute to the betterment of society and that they have healthy relationships. That all starts with our relationship with them, right? They're learning from us. And I want you to apply that same curiosity and thirst for improvement towards your marriage. Okay. And in fact, a lot of the skills do overlap, by the way. So it's not just all like, okay, here, more things to do, right? But honestly, even though it may seem like, gosh, I have a long ways to go, I will say that it is the most worthwhile work that you can do because your marriage is a really big factor in your overall satisfaction with life. When you're happy in your marriage, it feels like you can take on anything in the world because you have someone in your corner and you feel more confident and life just feels more manageable. Okay. So if you're going to compare the heaviness that you may be feeling right now to this vision of feeling like you got some pep back into your step and life feels light and full of ease, not quite easy because obviously there are things that are challenging about life, but more ease in your life. It really does start with working on yourself. Each person just staying in their own lane, figuring out where do I need to grow? How can I bring forth a better version of me into the relationship? How can I take more responsibility for how I've contributed to where we're at right now? And honestly, most couples that I work with, I only work with them for a few months and they notice this massive shift, right? One of my favorite things that a client has ever said to me is that working with me has helped them do a complete 180 in their relationship. They went from being so annoyed at each other or feeling like they're walking on eggshells with each other to feeling absolutely smitten with each other. You've probably heard me share this story, but it truly is one of my favorite testimonials that I've received from clients. And that's all I truly want for anyone. They come to me and they're like so discouraged that anything can really make that big of a difference, but a little bit hopeful, right? Willing to put in the work. And then all of a sudden, when everything clicks, it's like, oh my gosh, how did we get here, right? Instead of the usual, like, how did we get here? How did things get so bad? They turn it around like, how did we get here? I didn't realize that this was actually possible. This turned out way better than I expected. And that's because the clients were committed to doing the work on themselves. They were committed to redirecting their blame into personal development, into raising their own self-awareness, into improving their skill set when it comes to marriage, right? Like communicating better, being a better partner, prioritizing their marriage and connecting, even in the middle of this chaotic life where they're raising kids. It is all possible. And like I said, it has a ripple effect. When we show up differently, it will naturally impact how our partner shows up, right? I used to use this metaphor where it's kind of like dancing, right? Funny enough, I have my very first dance recital since high school this week as I'm recording today. And, you know, for those of you who don't know, I've joined like an adult hip hop class at a local dance studio that my daughter dances at. And I've been working so hard at remembering and retaining the steps in my mind, which is so different, by the way, than remembering choreography when I'm much younger. But anyway, and it's still so true with how you are showing up in your marriage. You go years, decades, thinking that the way you're doing things in your marriage is the best way or is the way because you don't know any different, right? You've never seen different. You don't know how good it can get when you do it differently. You're maybe a little bit hesitant and doubtful that it would actually make a difference in how your partner will show up. And then you learn a different dance, right? You learn a different choreography and you're like, oh gosh, this is awkward and clunky because this is not the way I'm used to moving or doing things. And then all of a sudden that aha moment comes to life and you're like, oh wow, I'm noticing that they're showing up differently. I'm noticing that they're less defensive. I'm noticing that our conversations are easier. I'm noticing that life feels lighter with us. I'm noticing we're laughing more. I'm noticing that we are more intimate more often, right? Which is all things that came up in my last call with my client today. He shared that when his wife started being more intentional about how she communicated, when she reacted with more calmness and understanding, and when she started taking better care of herself, he noticed home life felt better. And I had to remind him, it's not because she made the changes. That certainly helped. But it's also because he made changes. And when the two of you are making changes together, that is just magical, right? You two are going to almost feel like before things got hard, before kids, and possibly even better than before, because now you have the skills, right? Because a lot of times with the couples that I see, they still had issues before they had kids. It just was amplified when they did have kids because there's less time, there's less energy, there's less of everything. And so your fuse is shorter, right? You have less room to breathe. You have less grace to give because you're just so strapped for energy and time. And that leads to all these things that you may be encountering now, right? The constant arguing, the disagreements, the lack of partnership, the lack of connection. But when you work together, you can start to feel like, oh my gosh, I feel like they support me more. I feel like we're doing this a lot better. I feel like we're working as a team. And I feel inspired to really just like impress my spouse. That's actually the phrasing that my client used. He said, I feel the need to impress her now. So like before she comes home, I have this goal to like get all of these things done so that when she comes home, she could be surprised. So they got back to the point where they're approaching their marriage as if they're still dating, right? And that's beautiful, where you want to do good by your partner. You're showing up as the partner that you are proud to be, right? You're showing up as the partner that you think your partner deserves, and vice versa. And because of that, he is now showing up for her more. He has become more thoughtful. He has become more emotionally available to her and really truly showing her, hey, I'm in your corner. I'm here for you as a partner, as a co-parent, and not because she demanded it, but because he wanted to, right? She stayed in her lane, worked on her stuff. He stayed in his lane, worked on his stuff. And then together, they inspired each other to do the work and be the best partner they can be for each other. So if you're in this mindset where you're saying to yourself, I'll be better once my partner does better, all that's going to do is keep you waiting. It's going to build resentment. It's going to feel disempowering. And what I'm asking you is to shift this to, I'm going to show up in a way that I would be proud of, that I would personally respect, regardless of what my partner is doing. Granted, I'm going to have to put a little fine print here, right? This does not apply to you if you are in an abusive relationship. Okay. But so much of having a successful marriage is knowing how to empower yourself, whether that is setting boundaries or choosing to do the thing that sets your marriage up for success, not to set you up for more disaster, right? It's easy to be reactive. We can get to that point so easily. But what does that create in your marriage? Does that create more connection or does that create more distance, right? We have to start thinking more long term. So this is not about doing all the work. This is not about ignoring your needs. It's actually the opposite. This is about taking responsibility for your side of things. It's about meeting your needs so that you can start from a higher baseline when you are handling all things marriage. If you're burnt out, you're not going to want to connect no matter how awesome your partner is. You're not going to be as understanding no matter how great they're communicating, right? It's also about communicating more clearly and creating an environment where everyone feels emotionally safe. This is what creates that ripple effect that I'm talking about. And then on the flip side of things, when you don't do this, it also creates a ripple effect, but a negative one. So you have to ask yourself, what's the tone that I want to set in my relationship? What kind of ripple effect do I want to have? Do I want to have a positive one or a negative one? Okay. And I'll tell you, if you act out of your pride, that's going to come out negative. But if you think about what does my marriage need and give yourself that time to really think things through, how do I share this in a way that helps our relationship grow, that will make a big difference. Okay. At the end of the day, this is what truly rebuilds the friendship that you two have. And your marriage is built off of a foundation of friendship. When you have a solid friendship with your spouse, there's more grace, more generosity, a genuine desire to show up for each other, and you stop keeping score. You just start building connection and momentum together. You build this level of support and respect and acceptance. Think about how you feel with one of your best friends, right? Just, I could be myself. I know I'm loved. We have a good time. We work with each other. We can problem solve. We're there for each other. That should be at the foundation of your marriage. Okay. So if your marriage feels hard right now, it's not because it's broken. It's because both of you have been showing up from stress or disconnection or a lack of awareness. And that can change faster than you think. Okay. I'm talking 12 weeks. That's how long most couples work with me. Okay. So things that I want you to keep in mind. If you are willing to look at your role in all of this without blaming yourself, just acknowledging, okay, I could have done that differently. And you want to feel proud of how you show up and you're done waiting for your partner to go first, right? You really want to put yourself back in the driver's seat and know that you can actually drive change, then this can work for you. But this won't work for you if you think that proving your point is all you need to do and that your partner needs to change first. Okay. Now, if you are ready for this type of positive ripple effect and you are ready to do the work and stay in your own lane, then I would absolutely recommend marriage coaching to you. That would be a really great route for you to take if you've tried all the things and nothing has seemed to work, even therapy. Okay. I've been told by clients that they've had awful experiences or unfruitful experiences with therapists, and they work with me and they're like, this is a game changer. So if you're in that place and you are wanting something different, or you have been listening to this show and you're like, I really love her style, then I encourage you to book a clarity call with me so we can meet and get to know each other and figure out how marriage coaching can support you. And let's figure out how to get you guys unstuck and creating that positive ripple effect that I'm talking about, the kind that my clients have been able to experience. Okay. Well, thanks for listening. That's all I have for today. If you know someone that could benefit from listening to this episode, please share this with them. Better yet, post this in your stories and Instagram and tag me and I'll give you a shout out. If you love this show, thank you so much for being a listener. I am so appreciative of you. Please consider leaving a rating and review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. That's what helps this show grow. It helps more people like you get the help that they need. And I'll catch you back here on the next episode. Bye.
That's it for this episode. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed making it. If you did, please send me a message over on Instagram at Michelle Perda Coaching to let me know what you loved most about it. Hearing from my listeners is my absolute favorite. And if you've been loving this podcast, please leave a rating and review. This will help people like you find the show and get the help they need. Catch you here on the next episode. Bye.